What's up guys, Freddy with Poor Man Mods here. I just got done completely rebuilding the rear subframe of my 2002 Lexus IS300. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to do the control arm bushings. Now I installed StrongFlex bushings in all of my control arms. I got them from Cube Speed. I'll have a link in the description down below where you can get them. And if you wanted to see more of this process, I'll have a link in the description down below as well to the whole video where I do everything that you see here. The whole step-by-step from removing the subframe, doing every bushing, and putting it back in. But this video will be easier to digest and will be just for the control arm bushings. So, with that being said, let's get started. I removed all of the subframe bushings, have the differential and axles removed. Now I'm going to begin removing all of the control arms to do those bushings. This is probably going to be a common theme throughout the entire process. Very rusty. Wow, can't even get the bolt back in. It's so rusty. Now that the bushing is burned out, we have access to get our saw blade in here. We're going to do a relief cut on this sleeve. You want to be careful. You want to be careful not to cut into the control arm, just enough to cut through the sleeve. But if you cut the arm a smidge, it's not that big of a deal, just not ideal. So now we'll get our air chisel in there and chisel it out. So this is the Sawzall that I've been using, the Milwaukee Fuel M12. Big fan of this one. I'll have a link for it if you want. And also the handy dandy air chisel. This thing is an absolute lifesaver, especially for the price. I'll link to both of these. So with the chisel, we're gonna try to get the chisel angled this way to keep it from spinning in the vise. We're gonna get it into the sleeve, dig in, and then push out. This bolt right here is a camber adjustment bolt. There's a couple of these on the entire car, and in my experience with the Supra and this car, they tend to get seized inside the sleeve in here, and you have to cut the bolts off. Hopefully that's not the case, because it's additional cost, you know, 20-30 bucks for each one. So you definitely want to try to keep that cost down. And there's a locking nut here, so we have to remove this jam nut, and then we can remove the actual camber nut, and then hopefully the bolt can come out of the sleeve. Yes, that is awesome. I think I messed up when removing this. I probably shouldn't have tried to twist it. I think this cam key just kind of pulled off. So this bolt is twisted and I don't think it's reusable, so I'll have to buy a new one. That was my mistake. When you get that jam nut off, just try to pull these two apart. Don't twist it, because you can see pretty sure I damaged this. For these toe arms, we'll burn out the bushings even though it might not be necessary, and then we'll cut a relief cut in the sleeve and chisel out the sleeve. Wow, that is amazing. for the lower control arm, when I torched the bolt to get this out, that was enough to basically melt the bushing and have it fall out. So the bushing is very simple to remove with a little bit of heat and torch. It literally just fell out for me, but now we have this sleeve. My one gripe with StrongFlex is they don't have instructions, or at least they don't make them easy to find. With the bushing kit, the bushings for this arm, according to their diagram, it comes with this sleeve here. I'm assuming we're replacing this sleeve. Now, the bushings that come with the kit look like they could easily go into this factory sleeve, but they do provide this. So I'm gonna bite the bullet and try to install this. Their manual says it goes here, but they don't tell you exactly what to do or how to do it. They just say that this sleeve and bushing are for here. So I'm gonna get my air hammer, see if I can get this out, and see if I can get this back in, and hopefully that's the right thing. So before I do anything, I'll spray some penetrating lube on there to hopefully make it a little easier. And it's flared on this end. So I'm going to basically crush this tube in and then try to drive it out with my air hammer. I could not imagine doing this with the subframe in the car. I will be replacing this entire control arm. I just don't think it's worth saving. Okay, here is my 250,000 mile IS300 rear upper control arm. I decided to replace it because it is just too far gone, not worth, putting anything new in here. What I'm going to be replacing it with is this. This is a GS300 rear upper control arm. It is cast aluminum rather than stamped steel, so it's not going to rust. The dimensions appear to be the same. The bushings, I'm not sure if they're the same. Since I have the StrongFlex IS300 bushing kit, I don't know if the bushings will fit in here, but we're gonna find that out. I'm gonna burn and press these new bushings out, see if the IS300 ones fit. If they don't, I'll get GS300 ones. But I ordered these for an 03 GS300, but I believe 97 to 05 will work. So I'll have a link in the description for these. These appear to be lighter, but I'm not sure. I'll get a scale and see if there is a weight benefit or not. If there isn't a weight benefit, they're at least aluminum and they're not going to rust like this, and they're cheaper. I couldn't get these off Rock Auto, and I think the OEM wants almost $300 a piece for these, and I got these off eBay for $140 for the pair, so 70 bucks for each of these arms. And I didn't want to go aftermarket like tubular, race stuff, so I think this is a really good bang for your buck option. And now we're gonna get these new bushings out. So not doing anything fancy here, pretty much same thing like all the other arms, just torching the bushing out till it falls out on both sides. Then I'm going to air chisel out the sleeve. For this bushing here, I started it off camera, but got the center burned out, and it has this kind of flange on each side that flares out. And I basically started to just cut it off with my air chisel. And it seems to be working pretty well. As you can see, I'm kind of damaging this aluminum around here. Aluminum is a lot softer than steel. You just want to be as careful as you can. Try not to damage it too much. Definitely try to be more careful than I did. I messed this one up pretty good on the inside. I'm gonna have to file it to make it smoother and around here. So be careful, aluminum is a lot softer. Don't damage it as bad as I did. This one, the bolt was actually so stuck, it broke the bushing, it tore it. So all I have to do is get this sleeve out now. We're going to install the rear trailing arm bushing in the knuckle. Before we put the bushing in, I'm just gonna try to clean it up a little bit, wipe it down with some alcohol, try to get some of the crap out of here. And you wanna feel it, make sure that it's free of any burrs or anything like that. If there are, you wanna file them down. This feels pretty good, so we're gonna get the bushing in. These kits come with plenty of grease, so do not be afraid to use a lot of grease. Each bushing pair comes with a whole pack, so pretty much you can use half the pack on each bushing. It comes with a good amount, and I have some left over from the front control arm bushings of this car and from my subframe bushing kit for the Supra. So they do give you a liberal amount. For these, we're only lubing up the inside of the bushing. We're not going to lube up, or we're going to try to not lube up the outside of the bushing. And put that all on the sleeve. The sleeve doesn't hold a lot of grease, but you want to grease it up as good as you can. And then these just pop right in. To get the sleeve in, you might be able to put it all the way in by hand, or at least most of the way. Right now, you don't need a press for this. We're just going to use one of these little plastic C-clamps, and this should do the trick. Perfection. Onto the toe arm bushing. These are very easy to install also. And just slide the bushing in. Got the control arm back from being stripped, and before I powder coat this, we need to install the sleeve that we pressed out. The StrongFlex kit comes with all the bushings and the sleeve that you need for these control arms. And like I said earlier, the only complaint I have with StrongFlex is either they don't have instructions or they don't make it easy to find. Off camera, I installed this bushing sleeve in the other control arm, and I'm going to show you how I did it. First thing I did to guarantee that installation will be slightly easier, it already has a little bit of a chamfer here on this smaller diameter part of the sleeve, but I'm going to take a file and increase that chamfer just to increase the chance that it will go in easier. After you put a little bit of a chamfer on this end here, the smaller outside diameter end, you want to find out which hole this is going to be going through on the arm. So as you can see, slides in pretty far on this side, but doesn't do much on this side. So this hole is slightly larger in diameter. So this is going to be pressed in with the smaller outside diameter end going into the side with the larger inside diameter, and we're gonna have to press this all the way through. So it's gonna be coming in through this hole right here, and to make it slightly easier, we're gonna file this inside edge to have a little bit more of a chamfer to make it easier to accept the sleeve. Got the control arm in a vise, and here is a super handy dandy trick. Now to press this sleeve in, obviously if you put this in the vise, you're just gonna pinch these two arms together, or if you put it in a press, whatever, it's going to pinch them together. So we need to make a spacer, and I have an M10 bolt and nut here. And this is gonna be our spacer. The idea is that this nut and bolt are spreading these two pieces apart, preventing them from being pressed together. It worked on the other arm for me, so Just for added security, I'm going to put a tack weld on here just to keep it secure, and then I'm going to powder coat these arms. All right, these are looking really good powder coated in blue. Let's get the bushing in. Should be very simple. All right, looking pretty good. Got the trailing arm powder coated in blue, looking really good. Let's get the bushing installed. That's done and looking good. Okay, so to try to do things the right way, I actually did order GS300 bushings from StrongFlex for these GS300 upper control arms. The bushings don't seem to be very different than the IS300 bushings, but since these are aftermarket control arms, there is an issue. Now, my friend Manny has his own channel, and he went over this bushing issue a little bit more in depth. But basically, long story short, you can contact StrongFlex and they will make you a bushing that is the correct fit for these aftermarket arms. These aftermarket arms, for whatever reason, are different than the OEM ones. The issue is, you can see there's a slight gap right here. When you put these two halves all the way in, there is a slight gap here because this piece is slightly thinner or more narrow than the OEM arm. Now, you can reach out to StrongFlex and get a custom bushing made, or you can poor man mod it, and that's what I'm going to do because it's quicker and I think it will work. So what we have to do is get rid of this gap here. So what I did, I already did this on another arm, I shaved this bushing down just enough to eliminate this gap. But then you're probably thinking, well, what's that going to do for out here? Well, you have to make up for it. You basically have to add material here. So what I did, I found this piece of plate steel. The hole is off-center because I just tried to utilize what I had. This is just what I had laying around, and this gives it the best coverage. But you can certainly improve on this design if you want. But the thickness of this steel is pretty much perfect for right here. So what I'm going to do is shave just one of these bushings down to get rid of this slack. And then when you put the sleeve in, there'll be a little bit of the sleeve hanging over, and this will go on the outside, pretty much eliminating all the slop. So this shouldn't be an issue. I think it's going to work, but if you don't want to do this, you could either improve on my design or you can reach out to StrongFlex for a custom bushing. But this is what I'm going to do on each one. So you just need one of these shims, and you just need to shave down one bushing to get rid of that gap. And I'm going to use my mini belt sander to do this. Alright, with a little bit of shaving, got it to fit perfectly flush, and they fit nice inside. There's not a big gap right here, hardly any gap at all. So did a pretty good job shaving it down. We will lube up the inside and also lube up the sleeve and get the sleeve put in. Interesting that this grease is clear and not black. Not sure if that means anything or what. The differential bushings was also clear. Very interesting. All right, so we have a little bit sticking out over here, and that is where we will put our little shim. Perfect. And we'll get the other bushings installed up here in this sleeve. These bushings don't have any fitment issues. All right, looking good. I did have to change the shim or spacer that I made for this modified bushing on the GS300 arm. The shim that I made was a little bit too narrow. When I put the other arm in, there was just a lot more slop in here. So I made 2 more spacers out of some aluminum. I don't know the thickness, but when you go to do this, just install the arm and make sure that the shim isn't slopping around and just freely rotating and not doing anything. You don't want the shims to be thicker than the sleeve that goes in the bushing, but you want it to be close and so that it can be snug and not slide around. All right, now that we got all the StrongFlex bushings installed, the subframe is ready to go back into the car. And like I said earlier, I will have a link in the description down below to these StrongFlex bushings that I got from Cube Speed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, hope you learned something. And if you wanna see the full video where I do everything, once again, link is down below to the full length project video. And yeah, see you guys next time. Thanks.